Us and many other channels on YouTube have done loads and loads and loads of videos about what you should do on stage, how to perform, but no one talks about what you should do as soon as you get off stage, which is what we're going to talk about today. Today I'm going to talk about 2 things that you need to be trying to do wherever you can at gigs. It's not always possible, but do try because it's something that really works. The first thing, and it's something that me and my band did at our recent gig, is as soon as you can, after finishing your set, get talking to people. If you're the headliner, drop your equipment as soon as the set's finished. As soon as that last song is finished, put your equipment down, ignore the stage, and go and talk to people. Go and interact with the new fans that you might have just made. Go and talk to someone who's looked like they were enjoying themselves in the set and thank them for coming, or go and, I don't know, go and interact with everybody, because you have a limited window of people being ecstatic about the thing that they've just watched. If you were super shit and bombed, maybe don't do this. But if you had a great gig, most of your gigs should be great. Have some confidence. Try and limit the amount of time from finishing your last song to getting and talking to people in the audience. Try and make that time as short as possible, because there are certain people who might come and watch, and then you start packing down for 15 minutes, then you go and talk to your friends and family, and then you go and talk to the engineer for a bit, and at that, they've gone. They've left, and you've lost any interaction that you might have had with them. So go and talk to people that you don't know, go and talk to people that look like they're enjoying themselves, and go and make some new fans, because just being good isn't always good enough. The second point, and we have stolen this from Martin Atkins' book, Band Smart, is you should not be having a conversation after you've been on stage that isn't over the merch desk. Obviously you need merch to make this happen, and obviously you need to have a merch desk with your merch on to make this happen, but really you should. Unless you're like just starting out and you're still working on performances and still working on your songs, then yeah, merch shouldn't be your number one concern. But as soon as you've got a few tracks out and you're starting to get out gigging a lot, merch is really important, not only because it's probably the best way that any band gets money, especially in the early stages, but it's also a good talking point, and it's a place, in terms of the merch table, a place where people can come and hang out with you and not feel intruding, because that is a place where they're allowed to come and talk to the band. Now, the idea behind, if you have any conversation whatsoever at a gig, it should be over the merch table. The point of that is pretty simple. You will sell more merch if you do that, because anyone who comes up and says, "Oh, that was a great set," you can be like, "Oh, thank you." And then you can have a bit of a conversation, and there's t-shirts here, there's CDs here, there's things like you are in your own shop while having this conversation, rather than being at the other side of the room where you might go, do you fancy buying some merch? Come with me to the merch table. You can just literally say, is there anything that takes your fancy? We'll knock you a $5 off because you're so nice. Or anything. Like, there's so many more opportunities that you have to sell merch if every conversation that you have at the gig is at the merch table.
What if there are more band members than just one person, and the other band members are about in the room?
That is also fine. The only problem is then that you do run the risk of someone in the crowd, a band member in the crowd talking to someone. That conversation would have been better had at the merch table.
So why don't all the band try and herd people towards the merch desk, or just loiter around that area?
That is exactly what they should do. If the merch area is super small and you can only really fit one person behind it, that's fine, don't worry about it. But as Joe says, try and get people in that rough area, because as nice as it would be to say, once you finish on stage, have a good time, have some beers, have a party, you earn it. No, your job is not finished until the last person walks out of that door. It's not a time to relax or we had a good time. This is your selling time now. You've just done your Dragon's Den pitch, and you are now looking to get the investment. This is the important point. There is a way of representing a journey that a fan takes in the music industry, and it looks like a bit of a triangle, and it goes from bottom, which is like maybe a listener or just like someone who's never heard of you, to then a casual fan, to a super fan at the top. And there's not many people who are super fans, but if you want people getting up that triangle as quickly as possible, actually talking to them after a gig is a great way of doing that. To give an example, the bands that I saw in Texas when I went to South by Southwest this year, the bands that I actually spoke to after their set, I have a better impression of in my mind than the bands that I just saw. And it really shouldn't matter. It should be, which bands did I prefer the music of, which bands did I prefer the performance of, and nothing else. But that's just not the case. The bands that you make friends with, the bands that express gratitude when you go up to them and go, I really enjoyed that, and they're like, they share that kind of energy, that sticks with a fan. And you need as many of those kind of interactions as possible. So if you are talking to as many people in the crowd, if you're doing that around the merch table, that's just like bumping people up that triangle a hell of a lot quicker than you going and talking to your parents straight after the gig's finished and staying there until everyone's left. Now, as much as I'm saying some of these points to essentially say, try and sell more merch, here's a good way of doing it, just because you're around the merch table doesn't mean that you should be pushing it into people's faces. Well, at all, really. If someone says, oh, I really enjoyed that site, you can say thank you, you can say, oh, could I interest you in a t-shirt? But if they really don't care and just want to talk to you, don't keep pushing, because you will lose a fan by doing that.
Having the fan is more important than selling the merch.
Yes, 100%. However, and this is another point that I'm just going to squeeze in from Martin Atkins' book when he's talking about this, it's sometimes better to have a few different things on your merch table. If you do only have like one t-shirt, fine. If you can have two t-shirts, even better, because if someone does maybe like want a t-shirt, like they're looking, but they look, you know, you could say, oh, would you like a t-shirt? Being able to say the sentence, oh, which of the t-shirts would you like, is a little bit better, because you kind of inferred that they do want a t-shirt, which would they like? It's a side note, but it's kind of cool. So, summarise. Get off stage as quickly as possible. If you're a support band, not much you can do about it. Just try and pack down as quickly as possible and get talking to people before the next band starts. Also hang around at the end of the gig once the headliner has finished, because there might be people who wanted to stay watch the headliner, but really wanted to speak to you because you were the highlight of their night. So stick around. If you can have conversations over the merch table, do. Don't just stand and talk to your parents. Don't just stand and talk to the promoter. Don't just stand and talk to other band members. Don't just stand and talk to the engineer. Don't go backstage and drink. That's like the biggest don't do it, because, yeah, it's rock and roll and we're all going to get pissed and whatever. Just don't do that. Cool. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on that side of the screen. If you want to see our best of playlist, click on that side of the screen. Very sorry for the mess in the background. This was the aftermath of the gig that I mentioned. We haven't unpacked yet, and it's been a month. It's good to know that I'm in a band that's as stereotypical as every other band, because we're messy bastards, and so are you. We will see you next week.